Good morning, my friends. Oh, yeah. Well, wherever you are, you're having a great beginning of this weekend. And I noticed some of you were commenting on the weather. Not to make you feel bad down in Texas, but we are having beautiful weather up here. This morning was about 68 degrees. You could actually sit outside on the on your porch and not melt. It will probably get hotter later on in the day, but the humidity is dropping, and that makes a big difference. Hey, Denny, thank you for the AV check. Love it when you give it to me early like that. Makes a big difference. Appreciate it there, buddy. Denny is part of the, Dennis Rudell is part of the great team of moderators that help me out every week, which includes Cichlid Kings and Vibes and Vervinder, GP, and who else? Who am I missing? So we have a great group of moderators, and I appreciate all of them. So let's take a look here at who we have here. We have off that pinned message. Let's see who we have in the house here. Good morning, Paul Newman. Good to see you, my friend. Ryan Johnson's in the house. Cat Sailor. Hey, Cat. Good to have you here, my friend. And Price Tag in the house. Z-Zip is here. Waynard Wolmerans. Hello, Waynard. Good to see you. And let's see, Davey Larson in the house. I think Paul's the one who was sweltering in Texas. Hey, Sundar. Good to have Sundar in the house. Bravo to you, my friend. Saline Aquatics. One of my wonderful moderators. And Michael Lothanero. Hello, Michael. Good to see you here every Saturday. Like clockwork, my friend. I appreciate you showing up. Kent AJDK in the house. Hello to you, my friend. Adam Franco's here. And Eric Isaacson. Cheers to you, my friend. Brian Hahn. Hey, Brian. Good to see you here, my friend. Jeff Hester in the house. And all you little doggies get rounded up for the show. Oh, boy. Okay, Davey, let me see. Larry O'Brien. Hey, Larry. Good to see you here. Clearwater, Florida. I've been there a few times. And very beautiful beach down there on the Gulf. Finsanity, as opposed to Fin Insanity. I like that name, Finsanity. Leo, 209 Aquatics in the house. Ryan Johnson. Bobby Egan is with us. Hey, Bobby. Hope you're doing great, my friend. And Dave C., hello to you, my friend. Fish Family Link in the house. Jeff Stein. Some great people here. Wow, Lance. Lance, is that Maguge? Hawaiian Fisherman. Hello, Hawaiian Fisherman. Nice to see you, Lance. Glad you're here. God, I'd love to get back to Hawaii. Boy, I miss Hawaii. It's quite a trek from Nashville. In Los Angeles, you could hop over in 5 hours. I think it's a day of travel from here. Okay. Anyway, I've got some interesting stuff for you, and including a video that I'm going to be premiering with you, kind of a rough cut, and it's going to be, of course, commercial free for you, and hope you enjoy that. It has to do with today's topic. Let's go ahead and do the official starting of today's live stream. There you go. So, it's so interesting to me that over the years, there have been some what I call hot topics and, discussions that you really didn't want to get into. It was like bringing up politics or religion at the dinner table. It was just sort of, don't bring that up because it's just going to turn into a heated discussion. And for me, I mean, it's hard for me to keep things, and maybe that's just my nature, but it's hard for me to get too serious, overly serious about really. And when I say serious, let me clarify that. I don't mean not committed or not industrious or into learning or doing a professional job. When I say not serious, I mean like taking yourself too seriously, taking myself too seriously, where you get really offended easily or engage in a rant very easily about everything. That's just never been my nature. And when somebody would get into a discussion on a product or a type of food or filtration or fish, combination of fish, tank setups, and they would get very worked up about how something, it's my immediate reaction is like, hey man, take a breath. Take a breath, step back, relax, and don't get your underwear in a knot. Just we're keeping fish. We're keeping fish. We're not researching a cure for cancer or trying to solve some of the world's problems here. We're keeping fish. So we got to keep it in perspective. And now, doesn't mean I haven't enjoyed some of the discussions I've had with some of you about certain things. But and I put together a video on 15 topics, 15 different points that have come up over the years, repeatedly. They seem to be like a topic. Now, I may have missed some. I may have missed some of them, and this is where I'm going to rely on you. I'm going to count on you to fill in the topics that I may have missed, and maybe I'll either edit the video before uploading it and add those, or maybe even release Hot Topics Volume 2. And but before we do that, I promised you something, and I mentioned it on the channel. There's a community page, and I said that I would do something. Hold on one second. On my YouTube community page, I told you that my fish couldn't tell the difference between this bobblehead and me. And I just realized they put like real hair on the beard. Anyway, I want to show you. Let's see if they do it this time. If you can see it. I think they think that my bobblehead is going to feed them. Oh, I think I'm just, I think I've just taken in over the years. I think I've just taken in too much fish water. I think I've just siphoned too much, and I think I've lost my mind a little bit. Exactly, Ryan. WTF was going to be the actual letters on the thumbnail, but I said, you put things like killer fish, WTF, or stuff like that. YouTube will throttle your video. They'll actually like slow it down a little bit. But anyway, there you go. I'm telling you, they think that's. They might even prefer that bobblehead to, I don't know. Anyway, so there you go. I delivered as promised, and there is a video on that bobblehead. Maybe one of the moderators can can share that video link. The company that made this bobblehead for me, and they did a great job, I thought. I have some products I'm going to be testing, and I'm getting pressure from the companies because they sent me the products and they're like, "Hey, man, where's the video?" But you remember I said in that prior video that I'm going to be testing the products for a little while before I actually release my reviews. And one of them is this is a CO gas alarm. I'm in this garage. I've got a very large water heater, gas powered water heater, and I think, you know what, maybe a little CO2, maybe a little carbon monoxide, and measurement might not be a bad idea. So a company sent me this to test it, made in China, like so many things. It's and basically what it does is it will give me an alarm if there is any kind of a carbon monoxide problem in the fish room. So watch for that. Watch for that video, and I'm going to run it in the fish room for a while. Hopefully it'll never go off. And then there's a company called Kactoily. Cactoily. Water quality testing has never been easier. And you can see the box. And this is going to be a digital monitoring system that uses smart plug technology that is going to tell me on apps, using an app on my phone, it will tell me if there's any change in ammonia, nitrates, how nitrates are doing, if certain equipment has failed, things of that nature. So it's a interesting little toy that was sent to me. I'm going to be checking that out. And I have a company called Hydra, and Hydra is sending me over another smart plug system that will have sensors in each of the aquariums, and it will send me updates on temperature, ammonia, and will also tell me if any aquarium equipment has failed. Like if a pump is not working, or a sump or a canister filter has stopped working, it sends me an alert to myself. What we're seeing here is we're seeing some of the saltwater community products are starting to trickle, pun intended, are starting to trickle their way into the freshwater world. And that being said, I think that we're going to go ahead and do that video. And then after the video, I will go ahead and take up your questions, both about what was covered in the video, any point you think I might have missed, and any questions that you have in general that appear on the chat. I will go ahead and check those out. Let me unpin this message. Okay. And before I jump into that, very, very quickly, just a big shout out to my wonderful Patreon supporters. These are monthly supporting members of the channel. Starts for as little as $3 a month. Check it out in the description below the video. And these are the folks that are helping me to pull off some of the things I do here in the fish room, apart from sponsors like Aquarium Co-op, and are also helping me to get to places like Aquashella in November. I'll be there in Daytona. So, and I thank my Patreon members for helping me to finance the airfare to get there. So, so let's go ahead and take a look. I just read a funny comment. I'll get back to it after the video. Oh, you guys are the best. So let's go ahead and play this video that I have here for you. I hope you enjoy it. comment during the video, and I'll be happy to answer your comments as the video is playing. And if anyone jumps on while it's playing and makes a comment about, hey, where's Ben? I thought this was live. Go ahead and set them straight in the comments, will you? All right, in the chat. Let's go. Hello, friend. Thanks for tuning in. You know, over the years, I've seen certain topics come through the fish keeping community, and they become like hot topics, things that people argue about, discuss. Hello, friend. Thanks for tuning in. You know, over the years, I've seen certain topics come through the fish keeping community, and they become like hot topics, things that people argue about, discuss, and sometimes it gets a little heated. Not that long ago, I remember whenever you'd bring up a canister filter, for example, and you'd run into what I thought personally was sort of like the cult, the Eheim cult. I call it the Eheim cult. Nothing against Eheim, great company. They used to make great canister filters that run for 20, 30 years. I hear reports, but boy, oh boy, the second you would suggest anything outside of Eheim, whether it be an Aquatop or a Sun like the one I've had running for years and years and years, you can see it here, the Sun 704B, or anything else, immediately you'd hear from the Eheim cult about don't waste your money. Nothing compares to the German engineering of the Eheim, and I always thought that was kind of interesting. Never had the pleasure of owning an Eheim. Someday maybe I will. Arguments about canister filters versus other types of filtration are always common, and certainly the types of filters and the loyalty that people can feel towards filters. I always found that to some degree amusing, but not certainly something I'd want to get into an argument about. Another thing that you'd hear every now and then in the hobby, especially among African cichlid keepers, right, was the mixing of peacocks, haps with Mbuna. You'd see peacocks and haps together pretty commonly, but throwing in Mbuna with them would often create a very interesting discussion. And me personally, I decided to not keep Mbuna only because, from my personal experience, and yours might be different, but I found that when they put on size, they became very territorial, very aggressive. And so I decided to go primarily with the larger predator haps. Of course, that required bigger aquariums like my 300-gallon, but that's the direction I decided to go in. Now, you want to get into even a more heated discussion, get into the mixing of lakes. In other words, throw in some Lake Victoria fish and some of the Malawi fish and some Tanganyikans, put them in the same aquarium, and you're gonna have a firestorm. Now, if you want people to totally lose their minds, throw a few South American cichlids in there, and you'll be off to the races, right? I've seen it work. I see people do it, and it works. You know, my personal philosophy is, well, it'll work until it doesn't work, and very often you don't see the videos posted about when all chaos broke loose. Those videos you don't see too often on YouTube. Well, I promised you 15 points. I'm up to number 3 here, and this has been really interesting in the area of decor, where you start to get into bright colored decorations, neon colored substrates, and even this slips a little bit over into the area of plastic plants versus live plants. I mean, I've had people actually comment on how they would never put a plastic plant in their aquarium. They just thought it was a bit I don't know, just not for them, and that's okay. Everything I'm saying here really is there's enough room for all of us in the hobby. So, but it's just an interesting point that people would take sometimes. You know, I would never go with plastic plants. It's like a big deal. Currently, I have plastic and planted. I like them both for different reasons, and certainly where I can have where I can have live plants, I would prefer live plants. But some fish, it's not going to work, and you still want that green, that decor in the aquarium.
You got to go with it. Now, there's a type of fish that kind of straddles between plastic plants and and that's the glowfish, right? Some people love the glowfish, and there are other folks that lose their minds. They just think it's a frankenfish, a genetically modified oddball. In my mind, kind of like some of those odd goldfish that don't even look like they would survive in nature. They could never get away from a predator because they're too fat and don't really swim with any kind of speed. You also get the purists who look at when they look at aquariums, they really want what they call a biotype, an aquarium that is very similar to the circumstances that a fish might find itself in nature. And I get it. I mean, that's some people like that. They want to provide that to their fish. The truth is, though, is that very often the fish that we're buying and have in our aquariums, they haven't been anywhere near their natural habitat for many, many years because they've been locally bred, or bred in farms that may or may not approximate anything to do with where they would be found in nature, right? So you have a sort of a biotype group of fish keepers. Some of the tanks I have, and it might be painful for them to look at my tank. And how about bare bottom? Some people love bare bottom tanks. I've never been able to get into them. I understand that they're easy to keep clean. If you're seeking that level of effort or that level of minimum effort, I don't know, fish keeping is a pastime that does require effort. Bare bottom tanks are not for me. Maybe they're for you. And certainly I see folks that keep discus. They don't want anything accumulating in the tank. They want it to be pristine water. I get it, but not my cup of tea. Getting into a little bit more of a technical discussion. There are folks out there that say that you absolutely have to have the best possible pH for your fish. And there's another school of thinking that says that your fish will adapt, and that very often you need to find out what your breeder, like your fish source, what are they breeding in, what are they raising up the fish in, and that's probably closer to the critical pH that you have to keep. Some people go crazy using pH raising or pH lowering type techniques or chemicals. I put out a video years ago. I'll put a link up here called Chasing pH. And then there's folks that say, you know what? Don't sweat it. Fish will adapt. Just don't worry about it, right? So your comments, tell me below in the comment section, what do you think about these points? I mean, what are your thoughts about pH? How critical do you think it is? Or do you think that there's some wiggle room in there? Like if you keep African cichlids at 7, 7.5, 7.8, or do you have to keep them at 8, 8.3? I mean, what do you think? What's been your experience on that? Now let's talk about medication. There is a sort of increasing movement, if you will, and maybe it's coming out of Europe where it's almost impossible now to get a hold of strong antibiotics or meds for our fish without like a prescription from a vet. I don't know, do you take your fish in and have them examined? I mean, I don't even know how that works, but there's a group there's a movement of salt, just go with salt. Treat everything with salt, hit the tank with salt, as opposed to your stronger, your Metro, your stronger type of, or your general cures, things like this, and your Prozi Pro. No, just put salt. I'm actually treating a 90 gallon right now with some salt, but I did put it through a ParaCleanse series, and in an effort to work with that hole in the head that, I'll put a link up here to some of the hole in the head steps that I've taken, and I'm seeing great progress. But now I'm into UV light sterilization on the aquarium water, keeping pristine water changes, and salt. That's what I'm doing on that tank now. You get into discussions on food. Some people feel really passionate about their food. Omega-1, omega-1 rocks. They'll almost get into an argument with you about food, but some people make their own food. Some people put a lot of live or fresh foods, tilapia, frozen krill, bloodworms, brine shrimp. Some people use a lot of frozen or fresh, like they thaw it out and feed it. Me personally, on a regular basis, I'm using what I consider to be high quality, dried foods, but I do complement it with frozen foods like your krill and your bloodworms. And I do go out and get live brine shrimp every now and then. But what about foods? What are your thoughts about food? Is it making a big difference? In the lifespan, the quality, the color. I think it's something you shouldn't cut corners on. How about the whole thing? This is point number 9, by the way. Out of 15 points, I got number 9, dirted tanks. There seems to be a lot of interest, especially with what Father Fish is doing, on just going out and grabbing a bunch of dirt at a local pond, using that as the foundation, right? 2 or 3 inches of that, capping it with some sand, and then using that as the base, throwing in some leaves, some local twigs, acorns, and things that you find just over at the lake. And there's some people that go, oh no, I would never do that. There's like these 2 camps, and some people are misunderstanding it, thinking they can go with this sort of no water change, dirted tank with large African cichlids, and they end up with a problem over time, right? Because an important part of that process is a lot of plants, which are going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, right? The consumption of ammonia and nitrates and the providing of oxygen and things like that will come from plants. You can't have plants in large African cichlid aquariums, even certain South American cichlids, because they'll just get destroyed. So what are your thoughts about dirted tanks? You think you think we're onto something there? Now, number 10, cleaning your media in tap water versus cleaning it in tank water. Now, my opinion on that is when a tank is very young and it's not quite as rock solid stable as it should be or could be, I would say, use aquarium water. Use aquarium water. As the tank becomes more and more stable, and especially if you're using a deep substrate like I do, with a deep substrate that is housing a lot of beneficial bacteria, you're going to have a little more leeway, and so you'll be able to use tap water. Now, in my case here in Nashville, Tennessee, my tap water doesn't test out as having hardly any ammonium, or really anything really drastic. It has very small amounts of it. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Now, if you're in a major metropolitan area, like in the middle of Los Angeles, the middle of Chicago, of New York City, I don't know, maybe your water will test out super high with ammonia. And I was just talking to somebody from Denver. They told me that in the shower or when you're washing dishes, you can smell the heavy chlorine, almost like a pool, like a swimming pool. And they just can't drink it. They can't drink it. So that's something you have to make a decision on. Number 11, feeding. Lots of different schools of thought on the idea of feeding. How often do you feed? Some people go once a day. I was twice a day forever. More recently, I've been more once a day. Better water quality, less waste in the water. I don't notice a drop in the quality or the in the fish, the way the fish look, the way the fish act. I'm not seeing sunken bellies. So I'm kind of shifted over to the once a day. But I've talked to people who don't feed their fish once a week and just let them scrounge around. Now, I'm not sure if I would do that with very aggressive predator type fish, only because I think they would start to look at each other as a possible meal. I've heard that. How often do you feed? Share it below. How often do you feed your fish? How's that work? Were you always doing it that way? Why did you change? Now, how about the topic of cycling a tank? How do we cycle a tank? Again, you've got the old school folks that throw a piece of shrimp in there, and there are folks who use the live fish. They'll go pick up some black skirt tetras, something that's very hardy, and they'll put that in the aquarium and they'll do a live fish cycling. There's another school of thought that we'll get into the C-Chem stability, or the C-Chem, or the Fritz-Zyme products like Fritz-Zyme 7, and use a bacteria in a bottle, which I've been successful with. Also, of course, using media from an established tank, very workable. I've found that to be very, very workable. How do you cycle a tank? How do you do it? Different schools of thought. How about the topic of quarantine? Do you quarantine your fish? Some people go, no. I buy from trusted providers. My fish go right in the tank. One school of thought. I find that a little scary. I've had a bad experience with that. I have a quarantine tank that I use whenever I get new fish. And how long do you quarantine? Do you medicate when you quarantine? Again, many different prevailing thoughts out there, and certainly will be a good topic for a discussion. We're almost at number 15. Number 14, media choices. Boy, you can get the full spectrum on that. You get folks that go with, you've got to have the best. You got to get your matrix, your biohome, like when it comes to media, price is no obstacle. They want to go with the best, the most expensive. Other folks are using scrubbies, right? They're using just sponges. Like I've moved over the years in the direction of just using sponges as my media. Mostly because my media is more of a mechanical. I use it more as a mechanical media. And by that, what I mean is trapping waste and detritus, particles, water, clarification. And in the area of beneficial bacteria, I'm counting more on the deep substrate for that, which I leave relatively undisturbed. And so that gives me, I feel, a real stability in the tank. And that's why after the tanks become established, rinsing the media in tap water, that's not really a big deal with me. But again, you'll get into a good discussion. There are folks out there that'll argue with you that C-Chem Matrix is the best, or Biohome. I think they're all good. They all have a place in the hobby. Rings, people argue about rings. Moving bed media, was a K1. And the last discussion is, and it's not really one that you'll find that much argument on as you will a preference point, and that has to do with the acrylic tanks versus glass tanks. And both of them have plus and minuses. Apparently acrylic is much more see-through, even.
All right, you got the gist of it there, and I'm going to be fine-tuning it before it gets uploaded. But any questions you might have about any of those points, I didn't even get into the interesting discussions that people get into sometimes when they get into a saltwater versus freshwater, and the saltwater groups. And I don't think that this is true for all of them, but there are probably some folks in the saltwater community that would consider freshwater a very amateur level of fish keeping. And there's some folks in the saltwater community that probably don't really have an opinion on either way. Some people in the freshwater community might consider saltwater fish keepers a bit snobbish or a bit elitist, I guess, or in some ways. But at the same time, my overall opinion on the topic is that there's enough room in the hobby for really everything and everybody. And I don't really, personally, I don't care if you have a a SpongeBob themed aquarium, I don't care. If you have glowfish, I don't care. You know, the only thing I would really maybe care about and run by you would be if I felt that those fish were being neglected and there was some obvious disease that was being not seen or untreated. You know, there are certain things that I might comment on, but for the most part, I've reached the point where, and again, this is just my temperament, I just don't think it's something worth getting into any type of animated discussion about. It's just, we all have our own taste. We all have our own way of doing things, whether you're salt or fresh or real plants or plastic plants, or you're keeping nanofish or you're keeping, you know, fish that are 3 feet long. There's enough of there's room for all of us in the hobby. And I think you'd agree with me. I mean, it's not even worth getting into discussions and arguments to defend how the way I'm doing it is right and how, someone else is doing it is not right. And it's just a complete waste of time, in my opinion. And, if you want to have a bare bottom and, if you want to have a bare bottom, that's your call. All right, let's take a look at some of your comments and take a look at the chat here. And even though I'm going to show you the current chat, let's take a look at some of the older comments. And it looks like somebody just threw a super chat at me. Thank you for that, Angelo. I appreciate that. Because I was late, I had a flat tire. I really had a flat tire. You don't have to convince me, Angelo. I believe you. There's no reason for me to not trust you. But next time, I need you to bring a note from the garage or from the tow service. But thank you for that super chat. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. Jeff Stein, what type of water changing system do you use? I use basically a Python system. I like the Python much more than the Aquarium. I like the quality of their hose. I like the quality of their the fixtures, the hardware. So I think that's probably the best system out there. And I am draining my tanks to the backyard. I used to drain them through the Aquarium tubing, the hoses into the sink. Starting the water to get the flow going. And I don't do that anymore. I siphon and I drain by running the hose out the back door and into the backyard, and that has saved me a little bit of water, and it works fine. But yeah, Python, fill your tanks from the tap, get off of the bucket brigade. It's just a matter of time before you spill one of those buckets everywhere. And for you older fish keepers, just a matter of time before you injure your back, and you're not going to be able to get that bucket as high as you need to get it to get into the aquarium. So get off the bucket brigade as soon as you can. Those units are not cheap, though. I mean, the other day I was at like a big box store, and depending on how many feet of hose you get, you can end up paying $50 for for either an Aquarium or a Python siphon system. So that it's gotten, well, like everything, it's gotten ridiculous. So, Jeff, I hope that answers your question. I am a Python man. I am no longer on the bucket brigade, and I'm never going back. Now, I meant to say hello to somebody who was joining us from Baghdad, if I can find that comment. Somebody was on the chat from Baghdad. I think that's just amazing. We get people from all over the world here. I think Sundar is actually in India, right, Sundar? So anyway, just great that we get folks from all over the world onto these chats. All right, I am cruising for questions. Finsanity Aquatics, will you be touching on the Cichlid chat closing? I know that that James was consolidating into one location, and I know that there were some personnel issues. I mean, he's got hundreds of fish in big tubs that he's been breeding. I don't know what. So I don't know. I have not heard from James that he has officially shut down. I know that he sold a large number of the tanks in the section that was being closed to consolidate into the other section. I know that he was driving those tanks to California. So meanwhile, I imagine someone else was taking care of the facility, but I don't know. I know he was, he was in a rough patch there. He went through some personal, physical issues with, some body problems, and so I'm not sure what the total deal is. I'm going to have to get back in touch with him, and I was just sort of waiting for this chapter, this adventure to kind of wind down a little bit, and have him get back from California, get the new location settled in. But I'm not sure. Looks like someone else hit me with a super chat. Was that Jeff Hester? Let me see here. No, Cat Sailor. Hey, Cat Sailor. I see my buddy Angelo's super chat and raise it 9. Uh-oh. Super chat war. Super chat war. All right. All right. Well, I don't know. Do you want to make it fun? How about if we do this? What could I do? Biggest super chat today, biggest super chat in the U.S., in the continental U.S., because of shipping. I'm going to send you a coffee mug. How does that sound? You'll get a channel coffee mug. You can go to the Teespring, and pick out the mug that you like the most, and I will send you a mug. And when you're watching the live stream, if you're drinking coffee out of one of the channel mugs, the coffee apparently always tastes better out of a channel mug. So, all right, so there you go. The challenge is there. Biggest super chat gets a coffee mug. If you do have the biggest super chat today, be sure to send me your all of your information, your mailing address, full name, all that good stuff, if you have the biggest super chat of the day. So there you go. Let's make it interesting for those of you that are jumping in. Uh-oh, they're off and running. Bobby Egan. I'm going to get, you think YouTube will block me? I'm sorry, but you can't run a gambling channel. Somebody said I'll raise you $19.90. Looks like Bobby's in the lead, $19.99. And so it'll be open to any of the mugs that I offer, including the ones that have the Hall of Fame fish pictures on them. And I have quite a few mugs there. Different kinds of mugs. Uh-oh. Someone came in with I think someone beat Bobby by a penny. Harry! Harry in the house. Oh, I love it. All right. Game on. Yes, you can combine your super chats. That's okay. You can just be sure you keep track of your grand total. John or Salient or Danny, just keep track of the total and verify who had the biggest grand total. All right. Oh, you gotta love it. And Evan asked about what would cause carbon monoxide in a fish room, and it really is only my large gas, the gas powered water heater that is here, that has numerous safeguards built into it. Right, it has a digital system on it, but I never want to. I mean, that's just one less thing that you ever have to worry about. So it's just a little product that they sent me. I'll just go ahead and test it and let them know that it works. All right, let's see here. Jeremy Moore. Jeremy, I might have received your emails. I have been so swamped. Some of you know that I have somebody reached out to me that knew that I have a certain skill set from my prior life in the business consulting world, and they asked me if I wanted to help out with their business, and I agreed. So I'm working some mornings in this new venture, and then when I look at my email, it's like 55 emails have come in. So Jeremy, I apologize. Just send it again, and please send it again, and I will. I promise I'll look for it. Michael Evans comes in strong for the mug. I like it, and it looks like Michael Evans is the leader. And again, if you end up having the top super chat, be sure to send me your mailing address and full name and mailing address to ben.o.cichlid, and I will be sure to get it out to you ASAP. And if you go to the site, the Teespring, I think they call it Spring now. Maybe one of the moderators can share that link. You go to the Teespring site, and just you can pick whatever mug you want. Doesn't have to be this one. I have several styles of mugs, and all right, let's see here. The tank I'm sitting next to, somebody is asking about the tank I'm sitting next to. This is a 210-gallon custom aquarium from my friends over at Glass Cages in Dixon, and Jeff Stein answering your question. But when you think about the size of an aquarium, two things to consider. One, there is a sizable displacement of the gallons by the amount of decor. So this tank has river rock, sand, some very large river rock boulders, very large piece of locally harvested wood. So by the time you figure all of that displacement, we're probably around 190 at best. Now, another angle on that. Instead of measuring the outside dimensions of your aquarium, measure the inside dimension of your aquarium, and then apply the formula for gallons to the inside dimensions of your aquarium. What you'll discover is that what is sold as a 210 is really a 190. Now you figure in the displacement with decor and fish mass. What you really have is a 170 to 180, not a 210. So there you have it. Oh, it looks like Carrie is playing for blood here. Carrie is playing hard. Carrie, did that put you in the lead? Moderators, are you keeping track? Who's the we need to have a leaderboard. Who's in the lead here? All right. You folks keep battling. I love it. Kendall G, regarding feeding, do you have thoughts on how to get your fish to grow faster, or what should we expect regarding growth rate? This is from Kendall G, and Kendall, for a while there was this sort of vibe going around, this sort of idea of power feeding, like we're going to power feed our fish. And first time I heard that, I mean, I thought, oh my goodness, there's going to be a just an outbreak of Malawi bloat in the African cichlid community. So some people will run their aquariums a little hotter because that speeds up metabolism. I don't like doing that kind of stuff. I think just feed your fish sensibly, keep the temperature at a range where it should be, and just let them grow as they grow. I think the best thing you can do, use nutritious food that isn't full of fillers, dyes, and preservatives. Keep their water fresh. Keep their water clean. Hey, buddy. And that would be my advice on it. Don't try and do something to force the growth. And, certainly have an aquarium that's large enough for the fish and that isn't too overcrowded. So I hope that addresses your concern, your question. I am cruising the chat. Let's see here. Hi, Ben. I purchased a pair of parrotfish a month ago. One of them is large and bullying other small ones. Should I add one more? Well, that you folks got into a discussion on Serpa, the red Serpas, the tetras, and very similar. I mean, in a community tank, does it help in a community tank to have more fish? My red Serpas don't go after each other. They are really calm. Maybe they're afraid of the lemons. The lemons are a bit bigger and more active. But my Serpas don't seem to bother anybody. I don't have any frayed fins in my community tank. So I don't know. I don't. But I know that adding more fish has been a common suggested solution in an African cichlid tank. Will it work with parrotfish? Anybody on the chat that has parrotfish? I mean, if you go to an aquarium store and they have 20 parrots in an aquarium that they're selling, you usually don't see them going after each other. They just seem to be floating around the way parrots float around. But if you have an idea on that, go ahead and add it to the chat. I'm not a parrotfish guy, as you probably know. I like true parrots. Am I thinking of the right fish? But I'm not necessarily a parrotfish guy, but I hope that helps. So, okay, who's at the top of the leaderboard here? I'm gonna look at some more of your Bobby Egan. Damn, you beat me by a penny. 3/4 of a penny, because YouTube keeps 30% of the super chats. Oh boy. Okay. Fun. Okay. Jay Fuller. I finally caved into having plastic plants, those Buenos Aires tetras. Jay, caved in, I mean, is like, it's like you broke down and you fell off the wagon. You started drinking again or something. I mean, I don't think it's that bad of a thing. If especially if you have Buenos Aires tetras, fish that are going to be tearing apart your plants. I think this tank right here, I've got this big green plant here from my friends over at, we're no longer around, Elite Cichlids. I think it's a pretty decoration, and I would put it in the same category as the ceramic caves from underwater galleries. I mean, it's It's not real. It's fake, but it's pleasing to the eye. It's aesthetic, and it gives the fish something to kind of mess around in. Now, is it as pretty and as nice as some of the hornwort that's going on right now in my aquariums, where the fish are working their way through it and they're resting in it and it's absorbing ammonia? And no, it's not. It's not as nice. But under the circumstances, if you look at it just as a piece of decor, just like your SpongeBob SquarePants pineapple house, I think that I think it's okay. You don't have to consider yourself as having caved in. I think you're still a good guy, Jay. Oh, Salient. You don't have a holographic sticker? Send me an email. Send me an email. I'll send you a holographic sticker. And moderators, please tell me who won the mug. Tell me who's the leader on the mug challenge. For those of you who tuned in a little late, the top super chat today gets a channel mug of their choice from the Teespring store, if they're in the continental United States, only because shipping makes it impossible to go outside of the country. All right, let's see here. Any other hot questions? Let's see. Cichlid Kings, what I've found best. So he's talking about, I guess, with the spreading out of aggression. Add 5 to 10 of the same kind. If one ends up overly aggressive, you can weed them out and still have a nice group. That's a good idea. I think that's good, John. With African cichlids, it's a little different because you put 5 or 10 males. There's going to be some battles. Certainly don't put females in there because that'll drive them insane. But yeah, I think the fish that I have, and maybe that's why my red serpas are kind of cool, because I've got like 5 or 6 of them in there. There's 5 or 6 lemons, 5 or 6 red tail rasboras, 5 or 6 rasboras. I have little schools of fish. There's 10 neon tetras. So it becomes harder for a fish to single out another fish. And even though African cichlids, when they decide that they want to kill a fish, they're going to kill it. They're going to kill that fish. It's just that's the way it is. Jeff Stein, have you ever bred tiger Oscars? Were you asking me that? I have never bred tiger Oscars. I love this tiger, though. Let me take you off of the chat so you can. He's just kind of looming around here. He really is my water puppy, and is probably the one who enjoys the bobblehead the most. You see how I spend my days? Okay. So let's see here. Any other pressing questions that you want to ask? And thank you so much for that flurry of super chats. Very, very appreciated. And Inventory King in the house. Hey, buddy. Good to see you. Glad you could stop by. Video for Geeks. Hello, Video for Geeks. Do you have anyone besides yourself in your family that are into fish? No. I am and they enjoy it. They love seeing the joy I get out of it. And certainly whenever my daughter comes over and my son-in-law, it's like, okay, you have to take River down to the fish room. And so I'll bring River down and let her look at the fish, which she loves doing. And there's a little part of me, there's a little thing kind of banging around in my head about how someday River can take over the channel and it'll become River's YouTube channel. I mean, I'm 68. Like the old comedian David Wright used to say, I plan on living forever. So far, so good. But the truth is that as I get older, this might not necessarily be possible. And so, if I can groove her in and she develops a love for it, it could actually be her channel. So we'll see. My daughter is expecting another child, another girl. So who knows? Maybe the two of them will run the channel. Maybe none of them will. We'll see. But I am the only one. And I got back into it because I bought a tank for my oldest son. But then when he got into travel ball baseball and everything else, that was pretty much the end of that. And it became my tank and got me back in the hobby. So there you go. Inventory King, no more fresh water for me, GP. Inventory King has beautiful saltwater fish. Used to have wonderful cichlid tanks. And then he got the saltwater bug and then got into corals and has some of the most beautiful plumbing I've ever seen in my life in those tanks, color-coded and with red and white pipes. And anyway, Paul is really jumped in with both feet in the saltwater community and is doing a great job. Jeff, I am not breeding any fish right now. The only breeding that is going on is accidental breeding. Like I have a couple silver dollars right now that are doing a breeding dance. I have tons of fry in my live bear tank. I have some cherry barbs that have had fry that are now grown up and living in the in my planted community. So any breeding that has occurred has been strictly by accident. But when you start getting into breeding, it's a whole other ball of wax, right? You've got to have the grow out tanks. You've got to have for the different generations and waves of fish that come through, and it's just not something I'm set up for or really have the time. I'm at that point right now. And by the way, I talked about this at the talk I gave at the, I gave a talk at the Music City Aquarium Society last weekend. And I talked about, one of the things I talked about was getting to that point in the fish keeping hobby where you've taken on about as much as you can take on through multiple tank syndrome or whatever. And then you slide over into the hobby becoming too much work, and you start to dread the kind of things that are required to keep your tanks going. And I'm at a point right now where the amount of work required fits my schedule, even with that part-time work I'm doing now in the mornings. So, and if I was to go beyond that, such as breeding tanks, things of that nature, I would go over that edge, and something would have to give. I'd have stress. I'd have to be, take away from family time, take away from time with my granddaughter, not be able to get away occasionally. I mean, so you have to kind of keep that balance. And if you don't, and it starts becoming work, something that you dread as opposed to something you enjoy, time to cut it back to where you were having fun. Now, I'm going to try and get that talk. I recorded the talk. I'm going to try and release it. I'm probably going to post a raw copy of it to the Patreons. The Patreons sometimes get video content that isn't normally available. I'll post the 1 hour video unedited of the talk, the Music City Aquarium Society. I'll upload it to the Patreons, and then I'll do some editing on it and get it so it's kind of more polished. And then I'll go ahead and do a public release of that video. But the Patreon members will get it first. All right, let's see. And thank you, Paul. I'm so excited. If this granddaughter is anything like River, River is like off the chart, just off the chart. I mean, she's not even 2, and she recites entire nursery rhymes to me, and she's hilarious. She's actually intentionally will work on making you laugh. So I'm very, if we get, if this next one is anything like her. Andy wants to know, Ben, does your firemouth dig pits often? I don't see it. I do see my Jack Dempsey right now. The Jack Dempsey is moving rocks around. I don't know why. And somebody's digging pits in here. I don't see it. Maybe because when I'm around, they think it's feeding time, so they're at the front. I don't see really any pits being built. If you want to see pits, you look at the Red Terror aquarium behind me. I mean, it looks like rolling hills in there, and I don't know what gets into them. I'll level it out, and in 5 days, it's all built up again. So there is a little pleco in there, and he might be trying to dig out that pleco. So the pleco gets underneath the cave, and the Red Terror can't get to him. So maybe that's what he's doing. He's trying to get to that pleco. I don't know, but I have found some little pits in here, and I'm not really sure who's digging them, even though I have seen the Jack Dempsey pushing around some of the river rock. He's doing it right now. So video for geeks. I think if I have kids one day, I'm going to name them after aquatic themes. My son Krill, my daughter Fluval. Oh my goodness. All right. Okay, folks, there you go. Jump in. What's an aquatic theme that you could name a child? Go ahead. Do it. Go ahead and give them some advice. River rock? I don't know. What? Sponge? Okay, anyway. All right. That's funny. My daughter Fluval. Thank you, Carrie. And I'll tell you, I've never had a experience that has been so 100% full of joy as being a grandfather. I'll tell you. I mean, being a father of 4, that was a blast, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But being a grandfather has been really, really a lot of fun. Okay, Impeller. I don't know. That's kind of a cool name, almost like a superhero name, right? Impeller. Like to meet my son, Impeller. Oh my goodness. Jeff Stein, how many tanks do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 running, and 2 that are empty. An 8-gallon and a 60-gallon acrylic that are empty. Prime. There you go. Now we're getting into names that would be like a name from a movie, right? Prime. But Prime, that's good. C Chem. My son C Chem. What else would be? Fritz. Would you call a kid Fritz? Would that be a good thing, or do you think he'd get some? You think he'd get some terrorized in school? This is my son Fritz. Oh, Fluval's a great name for a yeah, okay. I want to name my son Trout, but my wife wouldn't. DSGF wanted to name my son Trout. Oh, Malawi? Name a kid Malawi? That'd be kind of cool. Tanjanika? This is my daughter Tanjanika. You know there's somebody named Tanjanika out there. All right. Jeff, I've had my fingers crossed. I've had my fingers crossed because I have South and Central American, and numerous people have said that this will work until it doesn't work. Now, they have spent a lot of time together, and maybe that makes a difference. They've got 6 feet of swim space, but fingers crossed. I'm just hoping it continues. It continues to be. It continues to work. The Oscar from time to time will face off with the Vieja. The Firemouth will face off with the Nicaragua. The Salvini will shoot out from the cave occasionally and chase fish randomly. But for the most part, what you see here is what you see. I mean, you can see the Firemouth and the Nicaragua if you can see them. They'll face each other, but they don't actually lip lock. The Firemouth will flare up, drop those gills, and look real dangerous, but nothing comes of it. Green Tear doesn't care about anybody else. The Jack Dempsey doesn't seem to care about anybody else. Very cute fish. Picked him up locally. Zell says sometimes the names, Oscar, Jewel, there you go. Geophagus? Geophagus for a name. That'd be interesting, Geophagus. Better than, this is my son, Earth Eater. Oh, my goodness. All right. So, price tag aquariums, any recommendations for a major Popeye issue? Can we help him out? Anybody on the stream? Popeye is horrible, and I have had fish that have lost their sight, lost their eye entirely after a bad case of Popeye. Did it start because a fish bit him? Did he scrape up against something? Does it have any fuzz around it? Does it look like it's infecting? I would say if you're at the infection level, pull them out and treat with medication. Otherwise, a lot of clean water. Maybe double up on water changes for a few weeks, and keep your fingers crossed. Keep an eye on it, and no pun intended. But I have had it get better. I've had foggy eye get better. When it gets really kind of popped out, I don't know if I've been able to pull that back. I did have one fish that I used salt. His eyes were kind of bulging, and I used salt. Put him into a 5-gallon hospital tank, little 5-gallon. Put a tablespoon of salt, and it actually settled down. Aquarium salt, like Fritz +1. That's a good salt, good quality salt. Ken AJDK, yeah, Earth Eater does sound like there you are about to go into battle and all the earth disappears because Earth Eater. Oh, geez. All right. Well, listen, thank you to everybody who jumped into that super chat battle. Can I please get from one of my wonderful moderators, let me know what was the top combined total? Who actually won? Was it Carrie? Did Carrie Pilch win? Let me know who was the winner. And the winner, please send me your mailing address, your full name, mailing address. I know I might have it somewhere lost in the emails, but send to me, and in your subject line, be sure to write biggest super chat 909. and I will get you the mug of your choice. Go to the Teespring store, do a screenshot of the mug you want, and send it to me, and I will go ahead and get you a mug. All right. Price tag, that's a pretty big eye, and I would say salt will help with the swelling. It tends to sort of work as a little bit of a, I don't know, is diuretic a right name? Just a way of moving fluid in the body, and maybe move some of the fluid out of that eye. Maybe some salt will help. Thank you, Jeff. I'm glad that you love the videos. All right, that being said, looks like we're 15 minutes into overtime. I don't want to use up too much of your weekend. You folks are the best. You rock. What can I say? You're just a wonderful group of people. I appreciate all of you very much. And I will see you all next week at the same time. I will release the finished video on those 15 arguments in the fish keeping community. And I'll upload to the Patreons my talk at the Music City Aquarium Society. And then I'll release a finished video for public consumption on that as well. All right? So thank you, everybody. And have a wonderful rest of the weekend. And I will see you next week. Goodbye for now.